A life is not important except in the impact it has on other lives. The quote is by Jackie Robinson, a 1950s American baseball player. I heard his words 5 years ago now, but today they mean something more. My dad passed away in January this year. I was lucky enough to be able to make it home to Canada to spend what would be his last 30 days with him. I learned a lot at the start of this year. I learned that people are more amazing than you could ever predict that they would be, or even that you think that you deserve. I have a profound respect for all of the people that came together to support my dad, my family, and I, even still. In the hospital, Dad was never alone. His friends, his family, and even people he barely known but had been touched by him somehow were there to support him. On any given day, I'd have to elbow my way through hordes of people just to speak to him, and I know that chatterbox wouldn't have had it any other way. People that cared deeply for him were there day after day after day, and it became to me an indication of the way he lived his life. The impression we leave on this world is best measured by the strength and the quality of the relationships we've had with those we've left behind. And that's why I think it's particularly important that we get this relationship down to an art. No one formally teaches us how to be a better friend, a better parent, a better partner, a better brother. So I've been thinking lately about the lessons I could learn from Dad and the way that he conducted his relationships. Because as much as we sometimes hate to admit it, we still have a heck of a lot to learn from our parents. My reflection kept coming back to these three things, and I think that they're notions we could all learn from to build more powerful and enduring relationships. Number one, when you're there, fully be there. Something Dad always had for people was time. I can remember waiting for what seemed like an eternity as a kid, waiting to use a landline phone while he'd be chatting away to neighbors, family, friends. He'd say, "Just 10 more minutes, Caitlin," and 2 hours later, I'd finally hear the dial tone. I think that something that's really hard today is to give people our undivided attention, especially when everything in the palm of our hand is competing for it. Every application in our phone drawing our focus in some 150 times today. We've all experienced a coffee catch-up where the other party's attention is flickering back and forth from us to the rolling notifications on their phone, and, well, we've all been that person. We all have a desire to be desired, and when we're not fully available to people, it leaves them with a feeling of being unimportant. So, with everything working against us being present today, I think what's really special is being fully and completely there. Number two, be curious. People would always say that Dad could talk to anyone about anything, and I think he made a real practice of it. He had a very broad range of interests. He was always learning, reading, watching documentaries. He was keeping up to date with world events. I can remember on multiple occasions he had stuffed a National Geographic underneath my bedroom door, flipped to whatever page he thought I should read. I think that being perpetually curious was key in his relationships. It enabled him to really listen and learn and to ask genuine questions. I think the best conversationalists are curious. They take you in directions they think would be interesting. They test your boundaries. They ask the hard and sometimes personal questions. They want to know why your relationship with your family is tense, or what your last breakup taught you, or what inspires you. Sometimes they get a response, and then sometimes they don't. But it's surprising just how willing and eager people are to share, and just how much deeper your relationship will become. I think that if there's one very important place to dedicate your curiosity, let it be in your conversations with the people you care about. Number three, give more than you ever expect to receive in return. After Dad had passed, friends and family shared countless stories that I can't thank them enough for sharing. Dad was always what I considered to be a generous guy. He was always helping family and friends and neighbors out with work on the farm or financially where he could. He was at every event, weddings, funerals, birthdays. He was always there to support. One story shared was from a childhood friend of mine. We hadn't really spoken since primary school. She said that Dad had found out about her volunteer trip to Africa. And out of the blue, he showed up with a check to sponsor it. I love that story. We all have resources that we can offer our relationships in surplus. They don't need to be monetary. Our time, our attention, and our curiosity are just as valuable. And though I don't advocate doing anything with the expectation that the goodwill will come back around, it's funny how it always does, and often in greater proportions. The more you love, the more you will be loved. The more open you are, the more openness you will receive. The more you're there for people, the more likely it is that there is nowhere they'd rather be than right by your side, maybe your bedside, when you need them the most. At the end, Dad said that he felt well loved. And I think that's what it's about, really. Loving well and being well loved in return. There are 3 things that I think that we can practice this year to make more powerful and enduring relationships. It's this. When you're there, be fully there. Be curious and give more than you ever expect to receive in return. Thank you.